Hello everyone and welcome to a new episode of What's This Wednesdays, and this week we are highlighting the game called Ziggurat. Now, this is a rogue-lite procedurally generated game that is in first person. So you get to pick between your characters here, and you start out with two apprentices, both of which are balanced standard characters, and you have the ability to unlock more characters the more you play the game, which will then have different benefits and bonuses to customize your playstyle as you go through these procedurally generated dungeons. Now, in Ziggurat, the entire premise is you are an apprentice or an acolyte, however you'd like to go about it, and you need to survive this dungeon. In order to prove yourself as a sorcerer, you need to survive this dungeon. And in order to do that, you must go into the Halls of Despair, and armed with only your wand, and survive by clearing out each room and defeating the guardian of each floor. Now, as you can see, your left click will shoot one beam, your right click will shoot a small shotgun, and you can pick up additional weapons as you go along. Now, these additional weapons, if you take a look to the right side of the screen, you'll see I now have a mana bar, a blue mana bar. That second weapon will use up that blue mana bar. Now, when you attack with the wand, as you'll see here just in a moment as soon as these minions spawn, it will reduce your purple orb in the bottom right down by a little bit each time, but that automatically refills. That's because your basic wand weapon does not decrease in mana permanently. It will always regenerate. So it's kind of like your basic way of killing everything if you don't have any mana for your other abilities. And I also have my secondary weapon, which I won't be using for another little bit here, but when you pull that out, it will start depleting resources of whatever spell type it's a part of. So you can have like your arcane, or your staff, or your alchemy magics, I believe are the three names. And as on the right, again, you can see the orange bar is now filling up because I've been collecting orange magic type mana. And I can use those, but I don't really like using those types of abilities right in the first room because I wasn't sure if the mana recovery would be adequate enough to sustain using an ability like that consistently. And in Ziggurat, this game actually does feed you mana quite a bit, so if you do want to use some of your special items, then you can. And we have some of these cool little enemies here, the Flan. Well, I don't know their actual names, I didn't bother to look them up, and they don't have names above their heads, but they remind me of the Flan from Final Fantasy Tactics. And when you hit them, they kind of do like a little electric boogaloo slide, like an electric slide to the side, in order to reduce incoming damage. And I think that's just a really cool aspect, a really cool design for like a first floor enemy. You know, you hit it and it kind of slides, you hit it and it dodges. You know, kind of teaching you to be, to take your time and not just spam all of your attacks. You can level up, collecting those small yellow, they're not spheres, but they're like gems, these yellow crystals here, along with the blue crystals, which are your blue mana. Your green crystals are your green mana, but when you collect these yellow not spheres, but crystals, you will get the ability to level up an ability. And what these will do is they'll permanently increase your character's passive or active abilities. And I chose the War Cry, which will now gain me bonus health, like bonus regenerated health, when I start a fight. Now, the reason why that's so helpful for roguelite games is that roguelite games usually provide you with a bonus for clearing a room, so you have to survive the danger first in order to get that bonus health back. But in Ziggurat, you start a fight, and then it rewards you with health before the fight. Now, I also just picked up the portal key. Now, the portal key is how you progress from floor to floor. The portal key will allow me to challenge this floor's boss. And each room will have different minions spawn, and you'll have your minion meter up at the top, so you know how many minions you have to kill until the room will pacify. So left-clicking and right-clicking yields different attacks for each ability, no matter what weapon you're using. Some may have status effects, so if you have the Frost Tome, for example, and you shoot out one solid Frost Beam with right-click, it will freeze enemies in place if you hit them with it, allowing you to get up there and do some massive damage with a short-range burst attack, like a shotgun fire. But you essentially just keep going through door after door and defeating all the enemies within, so you can easily get bopped if you're not paying attention. Now, this game is... I'm playing this on PC, because it's a first-person shooter, right? So, I am using a mouse and keyboard for this, not a controller. And I did mention that each of the rooms are procedurally generated, not randomly generated. So the difference, I just want to hint on the difference there, is that randomly generated rooms will take one specific layout and plop it together in a floor pattern, and then there you go, that room will do that thing. But with procedural generation, as you go through each of these rooms, it will give you a room and then also give you something that might happen in that room. So that room will not always have those specific items, treasure chests, or enemies in it. So I just actually got a treasure chest, which when playing through a little bit after recording footage for this video, I ended up only getting trapped treasure chests. So you can get trapped treasure chests that will spawn enemies and give you a bit of experience to level up. You can also find these scrolls, so nobody has ever questioned the power and skill of the noble wizards of Greyhorn. However, in the harsh Ziggurat test, no one has managed to escape with all limbs intact. One can only wonder what can be inside the puzzling labyrinth to stop anyone from getting out alive. So basically you can get your lore and your plot for this game by finding those scrolls on each floor. Basically, the Ziggurat test is like this ultimate magical test that you need to survive. For what reason? I don't know. I haven't got that deep into the Ziggurat yet. So this game is available right now for purchase for $17 Canadian, $16.99, or your regional equivalent, so probably like $14.99 for Americans, $14.99 US dollars. And you also have your mini-map up in the top left and your map there. Now, there are some things that can augment other things other than like your passive health. Like here, we have this room that was affected by the green crystal. Now, the green crystal gives staves minus 50% mana usage, so it powers up staves by giving them reduced casting costs. But every other mana usage that you have is increased by 100, so it doubles everything else. So now, this is why I switched to the staff here and started using it, because it's going to take up less mana to fire and clear out these giant chicken things. Luckily, these weren't the weird giant chickens, the basilisks, I think they called them, that spew the acid. They'll show up in a short minute here, but those things are crazy. You can also get health drops, mana drops, but it's very important to always be picking up those tiny little yellow crystals, because that's how you level up, and if you let them dissipate, you won't get as much experience. So here you can increase your staff mana pool or your alchemy mana pool. So if you've got a staff and you don't have an alchemist's weapon, then you're going to want to go with your staff, right? And there are also other effects that I had a funny one happen 2 times in a row on one of my runs, where I got a card that said, swap all of your mana pools and then increase them all. So I got 20 extra mana for all of my mana pools because I hadn't had one that was ahead of the others. So it was just like a free upgrade for everything, and I thought that was a fun little aspect, because if you're not using your extra weapons later on in the game, you can use that ability to kind of get extra mana. But there are also some things that are going to show up here in a second that I'll touch on to why you'll want to keep increasing your maximum mana. Now, if you've probably paid attention to the length of this video, I kept it as a short video, only one run, because I wasn't sure how people would feel with the first-person aspect being recorded, because some people get motion sick when they watch first-person shooter games, and I really wanted to try and give a good glimpse at this game, but not overdo it to where people might feel upset. But here we have Gunkar the Crusher, Mighty Warlord. He's our first floor boss. Nothing too special. He's just like your standard, I'm going to jump at you, cause a shockwave boss, but he also summons additional monsters. Every boss in this game will summon additional monsters to fight. And the best part about these bosses is killing their minions and damaging the boss will reward you with extra mana for your mana pools. So you can use all of your mana for a weapon and then get rewarded by picking up more. As you can see on the screen, there's a bunch of green and yellow and blue crystals that I'm picking up, and I made quick work of this boss. They also drop a lot of little chalices and a lot of little upgrade stones. And that is your portal out of here, but I'm going to take a minute to choose wisely here. Now, Enraged doesn't have a number in the top right, because it only instantly fills your mana pools, then it's gone. But any card that has a number in the top right, the more you get of that card, the stronger its effects will be. So it really helps to stack. If you get lucky and get a few of your same abilities that you want to keep upgrading, it's really, really strong to start stacking them. And in between each level, you get this nice little screen giving you like your level complete bonus, your rooms cleared, enemies killed, experience earned, items picked up, your time. So if you want to, get better and faster at playing the game, that's what you go for. And it will give you a procedurally generated new floor to conquer. Like this one's called the Emberstone Quarry. So this is floor 2, which is the Emberstone Quarry, but it will always be different every time you come into the game. And this here is one of my favorite weapons that we got right out of the gate, which is the Firestorm Grenade. It's an absolutely fantastic alchemy weapon. You throw it and it makes a big boom. It's fantastic. There's also one feature that I haven't been using, which is the dash feature. Your character can actually run faster, quite a bit faster, but I didn't want to do it because it got a lot of motion blur, and once again, I was trying to keep an eye out for you guys watching, because I didn't want to create any nauseated sickness and make it an unpleasant video. I'm always trying to make decent quality content for you guys. That's always, like, utmost importance when I'm trying to do these What's This Wednesdays, because I want to show off the game in a good light, right? Or, you never know, it might be bad and maybe I'll show it off in a bad light. But so far I've been getting lucky. Now, these big skeletons have armor and also launch firestorm fireballs, so they explode on contact. Another thing that's key to watch out for is these barrels. You'll see them coming up in a second. Hopefully I'll run past them. Oh, right here. Right in front of us, right there. If you run through the barrels, it's actually quite dangerous. Now, you can be rewarded by getting mana or health drops or other pickups. I don't know if there's other pickups, but I've seen definitely mana and health drop from the barrels. But the thing is, there's also acid in the barrels. So if you just dash through the barrels to break them, you could be taking unnecessary damage. I think it happens right here. I run through this barrel, and look, I got hurt because the acid is on the ground now. Had I shot those barrels, I would have seen the acid first and not got hurt. So that's a cool way that they provide the game with like a little risk-reward for if you want to have to make a quick escape from something, and there's barrels there, you have to kind of risk it for the biscuit and maybe take some acid damage or, do the safe route and shoot them down first, depending on if you have time. This game can get really hectic in later stages when enemies start throwing homing projectiles at you. And that's crazy, man. The homing projectiles in this game are absolutely nuts. It does take some getting used to, though, being in the first-person aspect for your spatial awareness, because you can't see your character, so you don't necessarily exactly know when you're going to get hit by the hitboxes of the enemy's projectiles. So that's one thing that needs a little practice when you play this game. But otherwise, the controls are very smooth. I love the aesthetic, having like this ancient, magical, like, magician's test where only the strongest mages survive, kind of weeding out the weak. And these are those acid-spewing basilisks I was telling you about. Now, what makes them interesting or stronger than their previous versions is they actually spew the acid behind your character in the direction you're going or facing. So if you're trying to run away from them, they'll actually lob it in front of you, because a lot of enemies in this game have tracking with their aiming. So they will aim ahead of you in order to hit you like you should. Like if you're playing an old game of Asteroids, you're going to want to... Not Asteroids, but Space Invaders, or both actually. So when you want to hit the last alien, you want to aim where he's going, not where he is. And that's what some of these enemies do. They aim where you're gonna be, and so it provides a little extra challenge rather than them just shooting where you are and providing, some bland gameplay. So here we also have extra upgrades. Life awareness, which is increase your maximum health or increase the health that you get every time you start a fight. I should have went with the health every time you start a fight, because healing passively like that is a little bit more valuable than maximum health, because if you can learn how to dodge, right, you should be able to withstand most rooms without taking much damage. And being able to have having more maximum health is great, but if you're taking damage, that doesn't heal you back up, So it's good, but it's also not good. Now, these shrines are the interesting point I was going to tell you about with the mana pools. You can offer nothing to the Elder Gods, you can offer your blood to the Elder Gods, or you can offer some mana to the Elder Gods. Now, I don't have enough alchemy mana, so I can't make an offering. And I was a little low on health, so I didn't want to make an offering to the Blood God. But if you offer nothing to the gods, you are probably most likely going to get a negative status effect. You're going to get a divine punishment. Now, that can be things from, like, taking away your mana pool, like having your mana pool, or taking away your map. Like, in one run, I got my map taken away from me. Now, here we have every shot counts, which is why I'm firing slower. It makes my attack rate seriously hindered, but my damage is increased by a ton. And these Mandragora-type enemies, the flowers that are shooting out these homing beacons, or not homing beacons, but homing bolts, they're actually the enemies I was referencing a little earlier. It's a little crazy and hectic that these things spew out like 5 bolts and then they track you no matter where you go. So you have to be pretty vigilant in, you know, your movements and exactly where your character's frame is, because you don't want to take unnecessary hits like I have been this entire time. Like, I've taken 30-something damage so far because I haven't been watching. Like, right there, I just took 2 hits because they're a little hard to dodge. I just ran right into those 3. Oh, it's so terrible. But that's just the way Ziggurat is. You know, you gotta have good spatial awareness and good timing. Like, you can't really hurt these Mandragoras while their shells are up, while their leaves are up. But, once again, I wasn't watching that green bolt. I was too focused on the Mandragora. That's not its name. I'm sure it has a different name, but that's what I'm calling it, just for quick reference. And then once you die, your bones are thrown into the pit. You get your bonus, your total score, and if you unlock any items, it will tell you what you've unlocked. So we got consumption, lose 20% of your maximum health to choose 2 more perks. That means if you want to sack 20% of your maximum health, you get 2 extra upgrades, which is crazy good. Golden Amulet doubles alchemy attack rate for some time. That's a use item. The Skull of Xanatos is a weapon that we unlocked, so now we have that as an availability to pick up when we go play the game next. So that's pretty much the quick look at Ziggurat. It's a procedurally generated first-person rogue-lite, focused around magic and spells and these crazy weird monsters. So if you like roguelites, and in case by now you're wondering what is a roguelite, I should probably clarify that. A roguelite is that when your character dies, you have to restart the run over fresh from floor 1 without any of your upgrades, unless you can purchase outside upgrades, which will give you permanent effects. Some games do have that, but I think this game's permanent effects are the characters you can unlock. Now, I unlocked a character on my own time whose basic magic wand attacks were stronger, but had a less large mana pool for its other abilities, and I actually really liked that character because I liked using the basic wand. But all in all, that's Ziggurat. It's a pretty simple game with a nice concept, and I love the theme. Once again, if you want to pick this up on Steam, it's on PC right now for $16.99 Canadian, or your regional equivalent for probably $14.99 US dollars. And I will see you all on another random Wednesday here on What's This?